Monday morning, we are very lucky. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT of rugby league, and he is with us for the hour. Cameron Smith, you're on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, boys. How are we going?
Going good, Cam. Going good. Your weekend, a weekend of footy, but also I just happened to wander past the television Sunday morning, and there's Cameron Smith making the debut on Sports Sunday.
Yes. Debut on Sports Sunday morning, 10 a.m. it was, Brandy. And I'll tell you what, I was a little bit nervous. I was in there with Tubby Taylor, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The great Australian cricket captain, former Australian cricket captain. But no, it was great fun. It was really good fun.
As far as debuts go, it would have been up there.
Yeah, no, it was. Copes, I was sweating bullets before it. I was more nervous before my debut yesterday on Sports Sunday than I was my first grade debut. So but it was good fun talking all sports and covering across all the, not just the domestic stuff but all the global stuff too. So it was good fun.
Just before we get into the chat on the NRL, there's been some reaction to Vosioki. We've just played a song, Cam, just in case you missed it. We had Justin Timberlake, Cry Me a River, and that was in light of all the chat about home and away grand finals. But Big G says, I've heard some rubbish in my time, but that Vosioki takes the cake. Please, never again. Now this one. Now this is where we need Vossi, because Vossi's music, well, it's a little bit left field, but the Aussie punk rock virtuosos Frenzal Rom did a cracking version of Home and Away theme song and their first EP, Dick Sandwich. So Frenzal Rom. See, we could have played the Frenzal Rom punk rock version of Home and Away.
So for Queensland listeners, just before the break, we're talking Vosioki around 8 o'clock every morning, and this morning it was Cry Me a River because of all the chat about home finals, whether you should play at a neutral venue. It's a whole heap of whinging that, in my opinion, Cam, I don't know what your thoughts are, but the whinging should be done either in the off-season or multiple weeks in advance of this, not when your team gets stiff by it.
No, that's right, Coach. Not when it's week of that game, is it? So we've all known the sort of the setup and the situation of finals footy. If you get the first week, if you're lucky to play the first week of finals, you can host it at your home ground. But after that, it goes by capacity, doesn't it, Brandy? Capacity of stadium.
It does.
It's like minimum numbers.
Exactly. That affects your ability to host and certainly the suburban stadiums don't fit the bill to host a prelim final. That's exactly. But you would have played a lot of prelim finals in Melbourne, wouldn't you have?
Yeah, no, we certainly did, mate. I would have played maybe 4 prelims, 5 prelims maybe, Amy Park. So they crammed them in there for those ones in particular. Like I think our biggest crowd we had there was like 29,000. So
I can remember being down there covering. Was it the Cowboys? That would have been your only loss in a prelim final at home. Yeah.
Well, actually, no.
No.
We lost a prelim. No, we lost a prelim, if you remember, 2011 to the Warriors.
That's
yeah, right.
Wow, that's turning back the clock, isn't it?
Sean Johnson, he absolutely tore us to shreds in that season, a lot like he did to the Knights on the weekend.
That was his debut season too.
Wow. And he's still flying now.
He's still flying. And Cam, that is... Like, there's some great storylines. Newcastle looking for 11 in a row. The Warriors' story, really, of redemption and the rebirth of the Warriors as a footy side in 2023. But it's also the renaissance of that man, Sean Johnson. Like that's an incredible story when you think about, and there's been times where people have said, oh yeah, but he's back home and he's happy. Mate, the Warriors got rid of him. The Warriors said, see you later. Like, you go and find another club. So it wasn't as if there's been a turnaround from the Cronulla times. It's been a turnaround. I think it'd be 4 or 5 years since Sean Johnson has displayed anything like he has this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was a point in time there, Brandy. I was, watching Sean Johnson play, and I'm thinking, well, I think he might finish up soon.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Just just with the way it looked like, his body was starting to let him down a little bit. I know he's been, troubled with this calf injury over the last sort of month, but the way he's turned his form around this year and the style of footy that he's playing, it was interesting. I was listening to him pre-game on Saturday, and he spoke about how, like, he's acknowledged now and he recognises that he's not the Sean Johnson that he was in the early days with, the same blistering pace, that left foot, right foot step that he could, beat multiple defenders. So what he's actually done, he's changed the way he plays the game slightly. He plays with a lot more tempo now. You see on the weekend when he had a hand in those first 3 tries, he wasn't moving overly fast. He would accelerate, but then he'd slow down and he'd manipulate the defence for his outside men. So I think that's been a big part of it, fellas, is that he's actually sat down and thought to himself, well, look, I'm not the Sean Johnson I was 10 years ago. So I'm not going to try and play like him. I'm going to play what, the way I can now with what I have with my, physical attributes. And he's absolutely playing the house down.
I've always, when talking about you in your career, you were the player in that the chaos around the ruck, how chaotic it can be. You were the one dummy half that could just, and one of your skills was to have the ability to slow things down. And that's exactly how Sean Johnson's playing. And, in that area of halfback where you've got 2 or 3 defenders in nice and tight, his ability, and you're right, he doesn't run at the line with great speed, but the deception that he has in his game has made him just as effective as that speed and right foot step and left foot step.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Cam, I know you love all your sports, but when you're talking about that, I think actually in all sports, the elite of the elite have the ability to have time under pressure. I'm thinking, the LeBron James, the Chris Pauls in the NBA lens, they have spatial awareness to, even in the heat of battle with bodies flying everywhere and their clock going down in the biggest moment, it's time, spatial awareness, pick the right pass. Sean Johnson, the same, Cam Smith. Steve Smith is one that I think about in the heat of battle with 150 k's an hour flying at him. They have that just little bit of extra time than everyone else. And it's great to watch for Sean Johnson. Cam, my question to you, we sat here with Vossi what felt like months ago talking about who are the real contenders in the NRL when they're fighting for places in the 8. Can the Warriors go all the way after that 40-10 win?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, if they play the way they did on Saturday against Newcastle, they're a chance. The one thing that, they're taking on the Broncos, the one thing that they need to be very good at is withstanding a lot of physical pressure early, which is what Melbourne, they failed to do in that first week of finals. What the Broncos did was they just absolutely blew them off the park with their physicality, with their energy, with their intent to carry the ball and even to get off their line and attack the Storm ball carriers. That's what's coming for the Warriors this week. I can't see the Broncos changing their game plan or their style, that the way that they're going to attack this game, particularly in the early exchanges. If the Warriors can keep the Broncos to nil after 20 minutes and then somehow find a way to go down the other end and score some points, it may just create some little bit of doubt in the mind of a lot of these Broncos players. They've only that game a fortnight ago was their first finals game, and there's going to be so much expectation on them at home playing at Suncorp, big crowd, to progress through to a grand final. It may just put a little bit of doubt in the back of their mind.
Now, the elimination finals last week were outstanding. Sharks, Roosters, Raiders, Newcastle up there in Newcastle, as was the Storm Roosters on Friday night, Cameron. It was another terrific game, played by 2 sides that were undermanned, went in without some of their stars, host of 3/4 missing for the Roosters, and Jerome Hughes not there, but turned out to be a riveting affair.
Yeah, it was, Brandy. I actually thought that the Roosters were going to take that away from the Storm. I really did. And then they made a decision to go down their short side. If you remember late in that game, Jackson Bolo spilled the ball, which gave the opportunity to the Storm to try and find that last ditch play, and who else but Cameron Munster to come up with a clutch kick at the end. But then the effort of Will Warbrick to outleap Junior Ponga on that far side and then to score the try was incredible. I was actually really impressed with Tyron Wishart. He was given that role. That's a huge moment for him, to be thrown that role of playing halfback at the absence of Jerome Hughes, to go into that environment of a sudden death game, playing against a team that had won 6 in a row. They were very confident, although undermanned, as you said, Brandy. They were confident. They played tough, and I thought he did a fantastic job. But they just scraped through by the skin of their teeth, the Storm.
Yeah, because when you look at the Roosters and individually, some of the Roosters played, arguably their best games. I thought Victor Radley was just outstanding. Every time he touched the ball, something happened for the Roosters. Even the players that filled in, Momorowski and Corey Allen.
Terrell May was incredible.
Yeah, so you run through that Roosters team. Lindsay Collins was terrific. So they had a job, and credit to Melbourne's defence, because the Roosters threw plenty at them. Like, they had a lot of ball and in different periods and played some really good footy, but Melbourne were able to keep them to 2 tries.
Yeah, they hung in there, and you know what, they actually played tough. If you go back to that game against the Broncos, there was plenty of effort, and they played tough. They just didn't play a lot of smart football. Where I thought, particularly Munster and Harry Grant, they had a huge improvement from their first week of finals to this week. It was interesting to see the decision how Craig Bellamy he started with Harry Grant on the bench and Bronson Garlick at 9.
Yeah.
I think that was just we'll take Harry out of that first sort of 15, 20 minutes, take the sting out of the game a little bit, let the game slow down a touch, and then throw Harry on there, much like he does in State of Origin for the Queensland side when Ben Hunt starts and then Harry gets on there after about 15 or 20 minutes. So I thought that move was a positive move for the team. You seen when Harry come on, his first touch, he had a nice run, and then not too long later, he made a dent in the Roosters' defence, played the ball. They went out to their right-hand side. He followed the ball, got an offload, and then set up a try for Marion Seve. So that was a pretty smart move by Craig Bellamy. And I think, for particularly Harry Grant and Cam Munster, they were filthy after their performance against the Broncos, and they needed to respond with a good game, and they both played well.
Cam, these blokes better than anyone, really. How would Harry Grant have taken the news that you're going to start on the bench in a big final after a loss?
Yeah. Well, Copes, I think he would have been disappointed. There's, everyone wants to start, right? You want to be the guy that goes out there in that first 13 to start the game and hopefully play the entire 80 minutes and finish the match. But I think under the circumstances, I think Harry would have understood where Craig was coming from. And I guess it would have been a little bit easier because it wasn't the first time that they've gone with that setup with the start of the game this year. I think that's probably the third time that Craig's gone for that option with Harry off the bench as well. So it's not a new thing, but at the same time, I think there's no doubt that Harry would have preferred to start it. And who knows? I actually asked him post game whether he thought they'd keep that same lineup going into this big game against Penrith this weekend. He didn't give too much away, but he just said, look, whatever's best for the team, he's happy to do.